Hey y'all, this is Surreal, and you're listening to It's a Surreal Life. This is the space where your story rises and your power speaks. Together, we rewrite the story that was handed to you, and then we step into the one you were meant to live. Listener discretion is advised. And let's come together in this moment. As we step into this space today, we're not just here to have a conversation. We're here to open a portal, one that mirrors the energy of the Lion's Gate, a time when the veil between our higher self and live self thins, and we are asked to rise, release, and remember. This isn't just another episode. This is a moment of megamorphosis where we meet the parts of ourselves we've outgrown and we choose to expand anyway. We're inviting in the wisdom that's been waiting. We're unlocking the codes that live in our stories, and we're grounding into the truth that transformation doesn't happen in theory. It happens when we speak it out loud in safe containers like this one. So whether you're listening from your car, your couch, or curled up in the middle of a life chapter that feels like chaos, you're in the right place. We're walking through the fire with grace. We're holding hands with our past and saying, thank you, but I'm not staying there. We're activating the next version of ourselves, the one that knows she's already worthy. Let's breathe in what we're calling in, and let's exhale what no longer serves. And what a great month to be recording a powerful episode. I know this month brings in, as we're all experiencing, a change, a release. You know, for a lot of people, it is a moment of transformation, especially if they are in alignment with their soul purpose. So I think something I read today was that like our life mission is actually to truly find who we are as an individual person and completely releasing what the world has told us to be. And at least that's like the season that the majority of our population is in. And I think they're realizing that. So Jessica, it's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for being here. The fact that we've connected, you know, across different countries and, you know, your message and your goal and how, you know, you're living your life is very similar, you know, and bringing awareness and, you know, to your people in Australia. So can you tell us just a little bit about what you do right now?
Yeah, so I help women basically feel the most confident, unshakable version of themselves by rewiring that conditioning, basically, and the subconscious thoughts that we aren't good enough, we're not confident enough, we're not smart enough, whatever the stories are that we tell ourselves. So I help women to overcome that and just step into the most confident, unshakable, unapologetic version of themselves so they can create the life they truly want and not one that is expected.
Yeah, I'm glad that you've created a space for women, you know, in that regard. I know that for you, it took a life of probably the hamster wheel effect, right?
A little bit.
Chasing what you thought was the grand, the most rewarding, the most amazing thing, right?
Yeah. We are taught from such a young age to follow a certain path. Like we go to school, we go to university or college, and then we go off and we get a job. Like that's just it, right? And then we, you know, do the whole gradual thing of, you know, finding husbands and having babies and finding houses. And it's just also set out for everybody. And it's been such a journey to kind of unlearn that path and unlearn that version to do and just actually set a path that I actually want to do that goes against the norm, goes against what everybody else is doing, but I'm so much happier for it. Yeah, it's unreal. Once you unlock that little nugget, it's amazing the possibilities that open up.
So what would you say was your biggest aha moment? You know, like, did you have to hit rock bottom? Do you think that that's necessary for everybody?
No, I don't think it's necessary to hit rock bottom for everybody. I think it's just a knowing. Like it's a knowing that you're meant for more, or a knowing that you want more from life. We all go through the motions. We're living life on autopilot, doing the mundane, and, day in and day out. If you can stop long enough to actually listen to what your voice is saying on the inside, that's screaming at you, going, there's something that has to be better than this. Like, this is boring. Like, I don't want to keep going through the motions. I don't want to, keep having to people please my way through life, or, constantly appease to other people. And I think it just starts with a knowing. It starts with a knowing that I want more than this. Yeah.
Yeah. So I truly believe that I think there is a sense that everybody has to learn their own self lessons. But I do also believe that there is a way in the meaning of quantum leaping, right? So let me learn from the people before me. And I think that's where kind of like that life manual that everyone's looking for, right? Because you just don't fucking know. It's like
Yeah.
all of a sudden you become an adult and you're just an adult, right? You're
Yeah.
an age and all of a sudden you're just supposed to know what the fuck you're supposed to do. And that's actually the most like primal time of your entire life, is in that moment of self-discovery.
Yeah.
And I know for me, in my moment of self-discovery, I didn't have anybody supporting me or understanding me or helping me navigate in any way. So of course I hit every dead end because I was in that motion of figuring it out. But also I was only doing what I had seen before me, right? So, even through my childhood, a lot of that mirrored into the journey that I led, even though it wasn't a life that I wanted to live. It was still a part of me and it still guided me. And I think that was probably the most frustrating part of it all. So I completely understand like where you're coming from, where it's just a knowing. You're like, this can't be life. Like, I know this isn't what life is,
Yeah.
but I think you can gain that knowing way ahead of time, way
Yeah.
before, all the mess ups and the downfalls and all of that.
We ignore it. I think we ignore voices in our head that actually say different, because as humans, we have a basic like feeling of wanting connection, right? So there's always fear of judgment and rejection that come about because we seek connection. So when we start listening to that voice, it gets scary because it's like, well, it's telling us to do something that's different to what everybody else is doing. So then that fear of rejection comes up, that fear of judgment comes up. And so we retract from that because we want connection with other people. Whereas when we start listening and start doing something completely different, we're all of a sudden like freaking out. Our nervous system is going, nope, we're safe here. We're doing what everybody else is doing and nobody's going to look at us. We're not going to be seen. We're not going to be judged. Yeah, I think we all ignore that voice, even if it's screaming at us well before the lessons that we have to learn.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. We know it. And that's that intuition. That's that gut, like your body and your gut and your energy. It never lies.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling that, I mean, that's a message to everybody, because anyone that I have spoken to, that is like one of the core values. Like energy just doesn't lie. You can feel it, you know it, and you have to trust it. But we're so conditioned today, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, there's a lot of other things. There's worldly pleasures that I think we've also become conditioned by. So it almost allows people to lose that awareness too, because either you're heavily medicated or you're putting all your energy into like alcohol or something else that
Yeah.
like you no longer have a connection with who you are.
Yeah.
But I'm curious. So I know for you, your journey, of self-discovery, of, wanting to become the best version of you, because I know that that's always been at the forefront. It's taken, I think for you. And this is what I love about your story, is because most people would probably hear your story and be like, wow, you did such amazing things, but
Yeah.
yet they weren't amazing for you.
No.
Yeah. So Can you bring us back, sister, to just where it started in your self-discovery?
Yeah. So I think where it started was really my birth, or the birth of my daughter, I should say. I wouldn't say it was a traumatic birth, but the emotion that I felt afterwards, so the grief, the rage, the sadness that I felt afterwards, that was traumatic. And that is kind of the door that opened up the world of self-discovery for me. It actually cracked open something in me that I was like, shit, like I need to do something different because now I have somebody else that needs that too. So it was like she became the biggest why. And I know it sounds so cliche because as mums, we're like, yeah, our kids are our why. That's why we, get up out of bed every morning. But to me, it was literally like that pinnacle moment that I was like deep in postnatal depression. I, on the surface, was like, I regret this. I don't want this. I don't want. I was going through the motions, right? Going like, no, and a serious like rejection of like, I don't want this. I want my freedom back. But deep down, there was a serious knowing that I was like, no, I love this kid and she deserves better. I deserve better. And so I started that self development journey. I became self aware of like, shit, like, now my actions have consequences because there's somebody else watching, there's somebody else, yeah, with me. So that's like, I need to do something. And so that's when I started the whole self development journey. I started with a trauma coach who first introduced me to NLP and timeline therapy. So that's where I was like first diving into my inner child stuff and going, oh my God, like this is what's triggering me right now. So I've just had my like, so that was like crazy realizations that I had been carrying a huge identity for my whole life to then all of a sudden go, well, actually, it's not mine. That's not my identity. I took on somebody else's because I made it mean something about me. Every moment that led to that, I made mean something about me. And so I created an identity that wasn't even mine. And it's surreal looking back on it, just I sit here in awe, like, because it's like, shit, like, never in a million years, like 5 years ago, I never would have thought I'd be where I am today. I never would have thought I'd be the mum that I am today. And you know how you talk about like everything happens for a reason, like, the universe just provides. The universe provided me this baby for a reason. And she is exactly how she is because she's exactly how I needed her to be to project me into what I needed to become for myself and for her. And so it's been a wild ride since then. That was 3 years ago. So I've been deep in that self-development journey, and it's just made me realize that, yeah, my whole life I've just kind of been pretending to be somebody that I'm not, like seeking validation and, going through the motion, like I was saying before. I went to school, I was a high school dropout though, because I was like, that was, I think, the first instance of like, I need something better than this. This is not what I want to be doing. So I dropped out of high school, but then I was like, right, okay, I hate doing these jobs. I hate sitting in offices all day. So I took myself back to university because that's what people do, right? We go and get degrees. So I went and became a paramedic. So I was like, hell yes, like this is so cool. Like, and it gave me something really cool to say to people when they asked me what I did. I was like, yeah, I'm a paramedic. It just really validated like that ego and that like my worth by something that I did. But then I actually didn't trust myself enough to want to go and do that job. So I took an easy route. And so, like, having all these realizations of like why I have done the things I've done leading up to everything really just clicked something in my head going, shit, like I've been seeking my happiness, my worth, my validation for years and putting it into other people when actually it was here all along. And I'm so proud of the journey, and it's definitely not as easy as I've just made it sound. Postnatal depression, God, I think it's only probably been the last 6 months that I've actually started realizing that's what it was. I never got a diagnosis or anything, but I struggled, and it was more than baby blues. It was like I had a deep seated regret that I was like, I don't want this kid. I like can't deal. I want to go back to my freedom, my life, how it was. But honestly, underneath all that, like the love that I still had for her, even though I didn't feel it on the surface, was obviously still strong enough to push me to go and do something about it, because I experienced all that postpartum rage and everything just kind of bubbled to the surface. And then, yeah, I finally started listening to that voice. I finally started listening to say something needs to give. I deserve more than this. And so to, and yeah, so now I kind of am where I am now, and I help women to kind of do the same, really, to be really confident in who they are and stop outsourcing their worth and their happiness, and just love who they are on the inside, to feel confident in who they are on the inside no matter what, and to create the life they want, regardless of what's expected from society or family or, yeah, just pave your own path.
Yeah. So just like, do you think the question that we should be asking ourselves is, who am I doing this for?
Yeah.
Or what is the outcome that I am trying to seek, right?
I
Is
definitely
it,
think there is a deep, it's like almost like wounds. Like we carry wounds from generations back. And I think nobody actually sits like, I mean, I was the same. You had said to me like a couple of years ago, sit and reflect. I would have been like, "Pff, what's that going to do? What is that going to get me? Like sit with my own thoughts and like write stuff down, like, but now I'm like, there's actually power in that. There's so much power when you put pen to paper and get it out of your head, and you actually look at it. Then there's a visual acuity to it, and you go, yeah, like, and I can guarantee that any woman ever listening to this can attest that how we talk to ourselves, that inner critic, you would not say to your you would not say to your mum, you would not say that to your daughter, but we say it to ourselves. And so, like, if you can sit and reflect on that and go, well, why? Why do I hate myself so much? But I would never, ever say these things to someone I love. I would hope that my daughter would never, ever feel the way you do. So it's sitting and reflecting is huge, and asking those questions to be like, what is it that I want? And truly get honest, like no, like nothing. That you had unlimited money, there was no issues. What would you actually want in life? And sit with that. And it can take a little while, like especially if like I know there's a lot of people out there that genuinely are lost. Like they know they want more, they just don't know what it is. So it might take a little while for some, but those that are like on the other end and they're like, well, I know what I want, I'm just afraid to do it because it goes against the norm, just sit with it. Honestly, sit with it, even if it takes a few days, a couple of weeks, and just reflect on actually what you want, and not the voices around you, not family, not friends, because they're all going to project. They're all going to project their own fears and their own judgments and their own opinions. And so we need to actually wade back through all of that noise and come back to us and our voice and what our opinions are, what we truly want.
yeah, that's probably my favorite part, because I think a lot of women, I mean, people in general, it's just like, oh, this is life. It's just the way it's going to be.
No.
And I never experienced necessarily the detachment, from my child, because I had a very rough upbringing. So, bringing life into this world, it was almost, I mean, as far as motherhood goes, I did lead with my ego, because I was going to prove to all past generations and to everybody that hurt me that I
Yeah.
wasn't going to be anything like them. But then what that created for me was, I mean, this just dark path, because I didn't know. I didn't know what to do, and those shadows were still there, just
Yeah.
haunting me, the reactions and the triggers and the anger and all of that. But postpartum hit me hardest when I became a stay-at-home mom. And I think
Mm.
it's because I didn't actually have the opportunity to then leave, right? After those 6 weeks, I was able to
Yeah.
then leave, but I wasn't. I was there, and I was faced with me, myself, and I,
Mm.
and those motherhood wounds that I was experiencing. And I remember going to the doctor, and because it was pretty bad, my husband found me like in the bathroom. I'm on the verge of about to just stab myself. And so he's like, we need to get you help. Like, this isn't okay. What are you doing? And in my mind, even at that point, it was just like, well, they're going to be better without me, but I can't give them to anybody. So the only way to solve this is by eliminating myself, and then everything else will work out. So when I went to the doctor, of course, it was just like, oh, this is so normal. So many mothers go through this. Don't feel bad. And I'm sitting there like, this is normal. What do you mean this is normal? Yeah. He didn't ask me. There were no questions about what do you do in your day? Are you nourishing your body? Are you, are you taking a shower even? Like, there was just nothing of that. It was just, here's a prescription. It's going to help you, with those thoughts, and, you're finally going to be able to have energy again. And I literally walked out of there more dark and confused and more alone than I did when I walked in. Like, what? So just like a freaking robot, just zoned out, went to the pharmacy and I got the script and I went home, and it was like, okay, I'm supposed to take this. And I took it one time and I literally could just feel in my body, like, this is wrong. This is bad. Like, this is not the answer. And that's what shook it for me. I don't, by the grace of any higher power out there, that's what shook it for me, because I felt it in my bones. Like, this isn't right. And I need to figure out what's going on. Like, I need to get down and, and of course the answer to that was just going back to work for me. I was just like, okay, I just need to go back to work and go from there, but it was still, again, it was seeking approval. And when I was at work, I would get recognized. Being a stay-at-home mom, there's no one there applauding you for the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
And then you're drowning. It feels like you're drowning. So I think it's very powerful for you, that you were able to see, your self-worth in all of that. Your daughter is so lucky to have a mom like you, because she's going to be able to grow up and not have to live that part, because it's not normal and no one should ever have to go through it.
I definitely think a huge part of the problem is that as women, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. I definitely think it's kind of something that stems from like the days when we were oppressed in public. We were silent, we couldn't speak, we weren't allowed to become lawyers or doctors or all the things. So I think slowly, like, this feminist movement has just been pushing and pushing and pushing, but putting more pressure on women today. Women now need to go out and build a career and climb the ladder and do all the things and provide financially. But then we also have to go and have the babies and do all those things. And it's like, well, how can you have both at the same time? I 100% believe that you can do both. They may not necessarily be in the same season, though. And I feel like that is a huge pressure. And I've had so many conversations with women that feel like, well, I want to have babies. We're planning babies in a couple of years' time, but I also need to find a way to provide 50-50 financially while I'm doing it. And I'm like, why? Why do, as a society and a generation, feel that women who are stay-at-home mums are less worthy and less, bringing something less to the table than a man that's going out and bringing in money? You're both doing a role that is huge and full-time. One just sees a financial gain, the other doesn't.
And that's the conditioning, though. That is the conditioning.
And the materialism. Yeah. Yes. Because we all want the fancy cars. We all want to live a lush life. So it comes at a cost. But that is the cost that and I feel like as men in particular, there's a lot of men out there that feel like the role of the housewife is less than. And I definitely think like they need to rewire that, because you can go out and you can bust your hole for 12 hours, bring in that paycheck, but she's been at home making sure your kid eats, is cared for, has been showered, has, you know, sleeps, makes sure the house is good and the laundry's done and the dinner is made. Like, yeah, it's still a 12-hour shift. You just get a different reward at the end of it.
I mean,
Yeah.
but think about it. I mean, I think also the other thing is the cost of raising children is so high,
Mm.
right? So like, I don't know. I'm it's so crazy to wrap my head around, because there was a time where I was paying $4,000 a month for somebody else to raise my child just so that I could feel worthy.
Mm.
How the fuck does that even make sense? And not
Mm.
only that, but I was trusting someone else to imprint on my children and to raise them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Knowing very well that I knew that I wanted, to teach my kids a different way and all those things. But yeah, the going rate right now, at least the minimum wage for
Mm.
childcare is $25 an hour. And people are paying that. So they're
Yeah.
selling their own worth essentially.
Mm. It's about
Yeah, no,
$100 a
it's
day here in Australia. So that's about $500 a week people are paying on childcare. That's a mortgage here. That's a mortgage. Yeah. And
yeah, why?
the funny thing is that we have been conditioned to think, but I'm going to work for my kids. I'm doing this for my kids. But then it's like, but you're actually choosing to be away from kids. And like you just said, having somebody else instill their values and their beliefs instead of yours. And it's like, why'd you have kids in the first place? You want to be with them. And I know like the cost of living is hard. Like I do get it. But at the same time, you are the only one blocking it for you. If you want something different, go and make it happen. Again, this is coming back to that conditioning that you have to have a 9 to 5 job. You do not. We are in a day and age now where you can literally go online and earn money. Like, I don't think it's ever been easier to earn money.
It's insanity.
The conditioning is deep, and I just want women to know that they can do more. That the only person limiting themselves is them.
Yeah,
Because
we
I was
can't.
once that person. I was once like, no, you can't do that. Like, and we all have money wounds too. Like, you can't want money. You can't want to do good things. I'm like, yeah, but what's money going to give you? Money's going to give you freedom of choice. Money gives you the choice to be a stay-at-home mum, to travel, to help out friends and family. It gives you choice. So why is there shame around that? There shouldn't be shame around that.
Oh, that was a deep conversation, because now it just kind of made me mad.
That could go on a whole nother riff. Yeah.
Oh, it just makes me mad. These poor moms out there, you know?
Mm. I definitely agree with the masculine and feminine energy of the world. I feel like that is why the world is in such chaos at the moment. There's too much masculine. So we need to balance that out. And I think you're right. It is shifting. I think women are waking up and women are starting to really, I guess, go out and do the things, become leaders, actually pave a path for themselves and realize that we don't have to be strongly independent women that don't need a man. We can have both. We can be strong and independent and have a man. And there's strength in that, and that will rise us above to balance out the world of masculine and feminine energies. Yeah.
Yeah. I think there is difference. Like, I don't need a man. need a whole ass man. Like, you need
Yeah.
to be a whole ass man. And what I mean
Mm.
by that is like whole with, yourself and your identity and who you are. And it's not a one superior than other, right? It's just we balance each other.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, my story is my story. Just helping women to realize that it's possible, even when you feel like it's not, even when you're in the throes of hitting rock bottom or you're struggling to figure out what it is you want. You absolutely can. You just have to choose it and want it bad enough. Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, the only one that is blocking the life that you want and what you want to do is you. And once you swallow that pill, it can open up so many doors.
yeah, and that is a hard pill to swallow, I will say. And the best way to know if you truly are, doing yourself a disservice or if you are in alignment and moving in the direction, of your soul path is by looking in the mirror. So I know you were talking about, doing self reflections, and I am so big into that. And I think one day, I don't know why, but I started having a conversation just with me, myself, and I in the mirror. And that was probably the most honest I had ever been with myself
Mm,
because I was living that life of fake it till you make it, pretending to be somebody just so that I could be accepted by the outside world or the community or like these people that I thought, they had nice houses and lavish cars. So like, let me fit this role. And it was
mm,
so hard,
yeah.
it was like, even if I tried, I still wasn't it. It still didn't feel good. I still didn't even want it.
Mm,
But having those true conversations with yourself in the mirror, like eyeball to eyeball, you can't lie to yourself. I mean, you can, but that'd be stupid. Like, why would you lie to yourself? Right. And that's when reality hit me. And I was like, damn. And it is true. We do create our own reality. And that is the definition of manifestation. It's not just like, oh, please, please let me have this. Please, I speak this into like,
mhm.
no, it's manifesting yourself into
Yeah.
believing what you're saying so that you can be and you can do, and then it becomes.
I'm feeling the fear. You are going to have fear come up. Like
Yeah.
that's inevitable in this sort of work. When you want to grow and evolve as a person, fear will come up. And that is I guess, the deciding factor of whether you let that fear stop you or you push through. And that is actually the definition of confidence, because confidence is an outcome of being courageous and actually taking the steps you need to take to get to where you want to get to. And it is scary. It's very scary. But you're not the only one to have ever felt it. You're not the only one to have gone through it, but it is a choice. It's a choice as to whether you let that fear stop you or give it power to move you forward.
Yeah. And I think this is a good segue to go ahead and lead us into, the conversation of ego, the ego
Mm,
death, and the definition of ego, because I think people don't even understand. We've given it a whole nother identity, that people don't even
yeah.
know what really ego is.
Yeah. So ego is interesting. The ego will never die. You actually cannot have an ego death in the literal sense. Your ego is always there, but your ego is there to protect the identity and beliefs that you have formed in your subconscious mind. So, who you believe yourself to be, your ego will protect that. So, when you find yourself getting defensive or triggered by somebody when they're talking to you and they're saying that you do this or you've done that or you've said this, you're this, and your ego will pipe up and get defensive and go, no, I'm not. No, I don't. That's your ego protecting an identity that you have formed about yourself. And so, yeah, it gets very defensive. It's very black and white. Basically, if your ego is on board, you are not curious. Curiosity goes out the window. You don't get curious about anything because your ego is just there going, nah, we don't need this. So people that are sitting here going, self-reflection is for the woo-woo people, that's your ego. Your ego is literally sitting there going, well, I'm not curious about this. So you just wave it on and your conscious mind will never actually sink it into your subconscious. So the ego will never die, but we can adapt our identity so that the ego will start to protect whatever we're creating. So, for example, like my whole life, I thought I was angry. I was just an angry person. I was shy. I was, could never do things that I would be doing now, like I never thought that would happen. And that was the identity I'd formed. I'm just not that, and now I can sit and go, well, I'm not shy. I'm actually confident, even though my whole life I've said that I wasn't. And I can do hard things. I've created that identity now that I'm like, I can do hard things. I can actually stand on stage and talk in front of people. I am confident. And everybody says that to me now. I have never had so many people in my life say, you're so confident. I'm like, I changed that.
Yes.
I changed that because that was
Yeah.
the narrative played out in my life for years was that I'm not confident. I'm not smart enough. I don't know enough to do that, whatever it was. And yeah, now I'm like, bring it.
I am. Yes. You've
And now
created
my
that
ego's
reality.
like, yes, yes, eat it up. And we go, yeah, sure are. They're a very defensive mechanism, but it's most likely defending a version of you you've outgrown. And that
Yeah.
is for you to then reflect on and go, well, who do I actually want to be? And that's when you start to rewire the subconscious mind, because that's where our identities and our beliefs are all stored, is in the subconscious. And that can be rewired through stacking the evidence. So this is where we talk back to fear and going, well, you feel the fear and you either push through it. So you do the thing that is scary as fuck, but it's going to get you to where and who you want to be. And that your mind is stacking that evidence, because when you go and do those things, your mind is literally stacking that evidence, go, we are this, we can be this. How you kind of rewire your brain over time is that your brain needs to believe that you can do something and you actually need to show up and do it, to keep doing it, so that your mind's going, yep, okay, we can do this. And so it really comes back to fear, I guess, at the end of the day, and pushing through that to, that level and that version of you want to be, what the life you want to live, because then that's going to automatically rewire your brain over time.
So like for me, and I think it was more of like a perspective, because I also have a different perspective, like on my shadows, because I remember we were going through something trying to tell me like, no, Surreal, your shadows will still always be there. And I'm like, nah, bruh. Like, I got rid of those shadows, like they're not a part of me anymore.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just a way for me to look at them as if I'm releasing them. So like subconsciously, they're not there, but they are there.
They
And
are.
they probably still will always show up in times or in different times of my life where maybe that shadow is triggered, right? But I'll be more aware. And I think that's the difference, is then I become
That is the
aware
difference.
of it.
Yeah.
So with an ego death, and I think that same thing, the perspective of it for me was that a time in my life when my ego was leading, I was able to kill it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to lead this version. I'm going to lead this version. And so, but also a lot of the ego deaths that I witness are of my past life. It's like I go back and I'm like, oh, wow, no wonder why I struggled. No wonder why I failed. No wonder why, whatever it is, it didn't work out, or it's like that negative, right? It was because it was the ego. And so, that's the difference, is like the death isn't actually, it goes away forever. It's just that the death is being aware. So you're able to nip it in the butt a lot quicker than if you weren't aware.
You're able to actually see when it's probably driving decision.
Yeah. That's so I'm curious, what are some instances, in your life where ego was the driver?
My relationship, actually. I have always been of the mind of a strong, independent woman. Didn't need a man until I met my lovely husband. And yeah, for a long time, my ego was driving in that relationship. It was, I knew right. I was right, he was wrong. Yeah, it was just crazy how it kept showing up. And I'm like, "Yeah, that's my ego. It's pride. I need to like, somebody needs to cut that shit." Yeah, it was just really rearing its head in my relationship. And I was like, that's just my ego. That's my pride talking. That's not actually, he's more than capable. I can depend on somebody else. Like, it's okay. And so it really came about that I had to obviously change the identity of who I thought I was over time, which is eventually allowed me to let my ego go in my relationship. It also showed up obviously in like me wanting to go back to university and become a paramedic. So there's like a little bit of ego at play there because I was like, well, this is cool. How cool is it when people ask me what I do and I get to say I'm a paramedic, and everybody then loves on me going, oh my God, how cool. That's such an awesome job. I could never do that. And so I'm like, yes, boost my ego. This is amazing. I am validated. All is good in the world. Like, yeah, it's crazy when you actually like start to realize where your ego has been playing out in life. And you go, wow, crazy. But yeah, those are probably the two biggest instances. I'm sure my ego has played a role in other areas of my life and still does. Those are the biggest ones that I guess I can reflect back on and go, shit, like it was pretty much driving the show then.
Mm.
Yeah.
So okay, so anyone that's listening, that's like, oh, okay, well, maybe my ego is driving. Like, what's the first step? Obviously, first step is to identify,
Mm.
right? Is it to understand the identity you're trying to be, or is
It's
that where the
basically understanding what your ego is trying to protect. So, first step is to become self aware of when it's rearing its head. And then the next step is to get curious about it. You want to get curious about why it's there, what triggered it. Was it something somebody said? Was it something somebody did? Was it, a decision that you're playing with that you're like, well, nah? Or, it's just you need to become curious about why it's all of a sudden there and getting defensive. Is it out of you, it's protecting that you actually don't want to be anymore? Like for me, it was the independent woman. It was, well, I actually can let my ego die in this instance because it's okay to relinquish that like role of whatever it was to my husband. I didn't need to be doing that. So in turn, it's kind of relinquishing that control, but it was getting curious about why it was triggering me and what part of my identity it was trying to protect and whether or not I still wanted it to protect that part of me or if I wanted to change part of me because I've outgrown it. Yeah. So it's getting curious.
do you offer mentoring around, I don't know, like what is it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I should probably know this because I've looked at your website, but is it anything like specific or is it just more just within self?
It's personalized, so it's kind of whatever's coming up for you. So I deal with like NLP techniques, timeline therapy, shadow work, all of it, like mindset embodiment. So it's kind of helping you to kind of see where certain narratives or patterns and then we start to rewire it. So we start to we have a goal of who you want to be in mind, and then we have to figure out who it is you actually currently are. And then we have to slowly like
Okay.
unwire and rewrite all those patterns and the narratives subconsciously. So whether that's delving back into childhood of when these first come about, timeline therapy, a bit of mindset work on the day-to-day stuff, and then obviously the embodiment part. So it's feeling the fear and doing it anyway. So even though it's stepping out
Yeah.
of your comfort zone, it's embodying that version of you want to be. And so it starts to help rewire that identity. So
Yeah.
yeah, to do all that.
And speaking from experience, I can say the integration part was probably the most liberating feeling I've ever felt in my life. I have never felt more empowered being embodied with like
Mhm.
me, I don't feel heavy or just all the ick, you
Yeah.
know, it's
It's a huge
true
part that
liberation.
I I
Yeah.
think a lot of like coaches and stuff miss that part. They're all about like, yeah, let's just do the NLP techniques and let's get into your subconscious and we'll rewire some things. But then they forget to integrate and do the embodiment part. And I'm like, well, they have to embody who they want to be. All you've done is dig into their mind and go, right, like this narrative started here when you were 12 years old. And it's
Yeah.
like,
And
no,
you're like, no shit. Are you serious?
and then
Like,
it's
I
like,
know.
now how do I start embodying who I actually want to be? Like now that you've kind of helped me delve into where that first come from, like now what do I do? So they seem to forget that part. And I think there's a bit of a bridge that needs to be got there. So yeah, it's a huge.
Yeah, I agree. But that's what I explain as true enlightenment.
Mm,
That is the literal version. That's like the definition. If you want to know what enlightenment is, like I know what that feels like. It's
yeah,
fucking powerful. You will feel like, yeah, it's a, it's a superpower.
it is.
And as species of Earth, like we have that ability to
Mm,
reach true enlightenment. It doesn't have to be hard
no, it's
all the
just hard.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. Well, that's absolutely beautiful. And your work, you can, like, you're international, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it doesn't matter
Yeah.
where in the world you live. It's all online.
That's some powerful shit right there. I stayed curious, and I think that's why a lot of these, just life changing freaking answers have rooted in my soul. Like, it is the lifeline. I didn't realize that the motion that I was creating and bringing, my story to life was true self-discovery, because
Yeah.
everything was surfacing and it was like I was able to recycle all the shit that I
Yeah.
just kind of, it's like I kind of just turned the garbage disposal on, all that
Yeah.
shit had been sitting there.
Yeah.
It's mind blowing because I am not the same person I was. A whole ass woman. I want to bring like everybody with me because like this is rich in life. And I just yeah, there's no I'm unstoppable. I know you feel unstoppable, Jessica. I swear the podcast world is literally the platform for manifestation. Like
Mm,
because they're putting it out and you're
yeah.
speaking it and you're being it.
Mm, yeah.
You feel
Yeah.
unstoppable?
I do. I do.
Yes. Okay, so what's your vision for Jessica, in the next year? Because that's tangible, right? A lot of people are like, what do you want to be in the next 5 years? Like, no.
Oh,
I mean, even in the
God.
next 6 months, right? Like, keep it simple, but like,
Yeah. I guess my goal would be to reach as many women as possible and help as many women. That's the goal overall is to help as many women just realize their untapped potential and the potential they're sitting on and the uniqueness that is them and just helping them feel fucking amazing and confident in who they are. So they're unshakable, they're solid, they know who they are, they have their worth, and it doesn't matter what anybody else is saying or doing around them.
yeah,
Mm.
that's so powerful. And thank you for your service to the community, to the world, to our future generation, because we deserve to make the shift and to finally lead in the power that we were given when we were born. And so thank you so much for being vulnerable and sharing your story and staying curious and not being afraid, like to just land on your sword. Like
Mm.
this is what it is. It's real life and it's okay. I am so excited to just continue to watch you bloom into this magnificent human being.
Thank
I'm
you.
so grateful to know you.
Yeah, I feel the same.